What's going on, everybody? It's Kyo Vinek. So here it is, the iPhone 15 Pro. The 15 is what I plan on getting since the 13 mini because the number 15 hits better for me. I personally don't think there's a solid reason to upgrade from the 14 Pro to the 15 Pro, but it's still nice knowing that I basically got a refined version of what was released the year prior. When it comes to the design, we got a premium build quality. We have glass on the front and the back, designed by Corning. The sides are titanium, and coming from a 13 mini, I felt a major weight difference. This 15 Pro weighs at 187 grams, and in comparison, the 15 Pro Max weighs at 221 grams. Starting on the left, we have volume buttons and a new action button, which is customizable. This is kind of a big deal because for a while, we had a mute switch, and that was an iconic feature for the iPhone. But I feel like with this action button, not only increases the water resistance, but also allows more ways to register shortcuts. On the right side, we have the power button, which also activates Siri. Below that, we have our antenna for the 5G. And on the bottom, we have your speakers and microphone and a new charging port. This is also another big deal for iPhones. Apple has tinkered their way in with USB-C with their MacBooks and iPads, and now we finally got it on the iPhone. And I think by now a lot of people are already comfortable with the USB-C, so I think the 15 was a good product to release USB-C with. On the back, we have your triple camera system, which we'll get more into detail later. Then we got your LiDAR scanner, LED flash, and microphone. Overall design is nice and balanced, feels good in the hand, and the bezels remind me of the iPhone XS Max. And that's an iPhone that I had for about 3 years. It has a very slight curve at the end of the bezels, giving you a smooth transition into the size of the phone. Since we're on the display, we got that OLED at 120 Hz with a peak brightness at 2000 nits. It's a 6.1-inch display for the Pro and the 6.7-inch for the Pro Max. Comparing this phone with the Pro Max, there is not much of a size difference. I didn't realize it until I seen it in person. We have a 2556 by 1179 resolution with about 88% screen to body ratio. The display quality is nice and vibrant. It's not as punchy as the Galaxies, but I like how accurate the colors are. Viewing angles are good, and in direct sunlight, I have no issues seeing the display. And on the top of the display, we have the dynamic island. This is new to me coming from the 13 mini, but I love the software integration. At the right lighting, you can see the sensors and the front-facing camera separately, but while you're navigating through the phone with the supported apps, the black bar looks more unified with the entire display. And that makes a good use for the sensor and the camera. I still try to find ways to make use of the dynamic island without paying any extra money. So let me know how you guys make use of the dynamic island. So this phone was released with that iOS 17, and as of this recording, it's upgradable to the latest iOS 17.1.2. We got that A17 Pro processor, and that's a hexa-core, and then for the GPU, we got 6-core graphics. And for the RAM, they hit us with the 8 gigabytes. This phone is smooth with everything I throw at it. I never had any lags yet. There are some bugs, like sometimes after I send a message and then close it out, the keyboard is still popped up. But hopefully a software update will fix that. On a typical day, I'm a moderate user on this phone. I would do some light browsing, scrolling through social media, listening to music, and using the GPS for a short period of time. Other than that, when I have a lot of free time, I would play some games, shoot a little bit of videos in 4K, and even with my heavy usage, this phone stays consistent with its performance. On to the cameras. The main camera is a 48 megapixel, got that 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 12 megapixel telephoto lens. The main thing that I constantly come across when taking pictures on this phone is how well balanced the processing of these images are. One thing that stands out to me is how good the dynamic range is. Colors are accurate, good details and sharpness. I'm noticing an automatic macro mode, and I think that'll encourage a lot of people to take some good close-ups. We get some really sharp focus with the blurred backgrounds. I always liked the iPhone cameras, and now I feel like it lives up to the Pro name. Video recording on the 15 Pros is a beast. One of my previous videos was actually recorded on the 13 mini. For anyone who knows what video that is, leave a comment down below. If you dig deep in the camera settings, we have the option to record in log, which is basically giving you more flexibility when editing colors. I feel like this is a good feature for those who has a fancy phone, but not enough money for a fancy camera. But even recording in HDR mode, the results are amazing. It's very good in detail, fast autofocus, dynamic range hits, and stable even when you're simply holding the phone in your hand. The main difference in camera for the Pro Max is that it has a larger 5x telephoto lens, but that only matters for those who take zooming seriously. So onto the battery, we have a welcome USB-C charging port, and it is said that the 15 Pros maxes out at 35 watts of fast charging, compared to the last generation that was at 27 watts. I like to bring in real life usage in my discussions. So one night, my phone was not charging, and I had about 35 minutes to get ready. I was using a Google USB-C wall charger, which is 30 watts, with the charging cable that was included with the 15 Pro. And I was able to go from 10% to 75% in 30 minutes of charging. I feel like that is pretty impressive. So for those who are in a rush and in need of a quick charge, get yourself at least a 20-watt charger, and it will come in clutch when you need a quick charge in. I feel like Apple should include the charging brick, especially it being $20 separately. I know that there are other phones with even faster charging, but even with the 15 Pro, it is still convenient. Now, overall battery life is pretty consistent. Standby time is also good. With all these intensive activities that you can do on this phone, like gaming and video recording, you will notice a big chunk of battery life dropping as you're using the phone. But I feel like that's expected. So if you're regularly into those heavy apps, it would be ideal to keep a charger around you. But with regular browsing through social media and texting here and there and casual phone calls, battery life is pretty good. On average, I get about 4.5 hours of screen on time, and on most days, I would say that I'm a moderate user, and I think battery performance is pretty good on a phone like this. We have a 3724 milliampere hour battery compared to the 15 Pro Max. That one has a 4422 milliampere hour battery, and I think that's a substantial difference. And honestly, that's one reason why I would upgrade to the Pro Max, even though I already have this one. But if I were to give a rating for the battery quality on this 15 Pro, I would give it a B+ because it's not an all-day battery for me, but it is consistent when it comes to the battery consumption. So, is the iPhone 15 Pro worth it? I think it is, but only for those who have an iPhone 13 or older. When it comes to real-life usage, I don't think you're really missing out on too much. But for those who are in the market for a smartphone, there are some competition. The Galaxy and the Pixels are great options. What it really comes down to is the ecosystem that you prefer. As 2024 approaches, we all know that these flagship smartphones are always evolving and improving. So it almost doesn't matter which phone you have. But if I were to sum it down for you guys, video recording on the 15 Pro beats the competition. So anyways, that's gonna do it for me. As always, comment down below. Let me know what you think about the video. And make sure you're subscribed for the latest. Later!